are going to go through some different segments here for everyone. We're going to start off with the Challenge Cup MVP. So we're talking about the player that we think had the best overall tournament throughout the duration of the Challenge Cup. And when we were going back and forth and a handful of players here, I think we settled down to 2, and we decided to award the Challenge Cup MVP to Debina of North Carolina Courage. Outstanding. I'm talking about just from the minute she was able to get onto this pitch. She's a player that you would look at for North Carolina Courage and just sort of have circled, I think. Mm-hmm. You just know that this is a player that you're going to want to try to target. If you're the opposition, try to limit their impact on the pitch. But that wasn't the case so much. We saw North Carolina Courage break on through to the Challenge Cup final, go ahead and lift that cup. And a huge part of it was because of the performances that Debina was putting in on the pitch for North Carolina Courage. 5 goals for her in this Challenge Cup tournament over 7 games. And I think at the end, lifting up the hardware that counts towards the end of this tournament, I think kind of goes without saying, getting an assist in that Challenge Cup final as well. So it was a delight to watch her play during this tournament.
It was huge. I mean, we did have some discussion about who it was going to be, but it's really easy to make a case for Debina as this MVP of the Challenge Cup, because even when you look at North Carolina and the attacking players that they lost in the offseason, it was up to Debina to step up and take control of this Courage team and not just dominate the midfield, but also in the attack, provide more attacking presence than she's ever had to before, because there really wasn't that many lethal threats in front of her in the front line for North Carolina. And that's exactly what she did, netting 5 goals and just being such a pest in the midfield for opponents to handle, and being a leader on this team, despite losing Casey Murphy in goal for North Carolina. That's also like a bit of a rally around that Debina needed to encourage, and then having some injuries along the back line with certain players coming in and out and rotating through. And then also with Caroline stepping in throughout this Challenge Cup. I know that Caroline leaned a lot on Debina to not only be her translator on the pitch, but also bring her up to speed about what the NWSL is all about. And we saw a different look from Debina in not just being a tremendous player for herself, but being a team player and a team leader throughout this Challenge Cup. So a huge nod to Debina for her efforts throughout the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, I know we went back and forth, and I think we boiled it down to about 2 players in this category. And we thought the player that could also maybe both contend for this title here on Attacking Third that we're giving is maybe Trinity Rodman. Quite frankly, we're looking at Debina and going through the 7 games, scoring the 5 goals, notching the assists, creating 13 chances. But we're looking at Trinity Rodman as well, and the team falling just short as the Washington Spirit were unable to go ahead and find an equalizer and push things to maybe a penalty shootout and see what could have happened there. But runners up of the Challenge Cup. So Trinity Rodman posting up 8 matches for her Challenge Cup tournament, recording 4 goals, 3 assists, 21 chances created for this player in this Challenge Cup. But we were also equally impressed with her defensive work rate within this Challenge Cup tournament as well. So that we tried to make the case for Rodman as well, but we just gave the edge to Debina and how she can kind of turn it on at those big game moments and really kind of stand out a little bit. So credit to both their players and the tournaments that they had in this Challenge Cup.
Of course, and because Debina, we chose her over Trinity Rodman. It's almost because if Rodman didn't have an incredible Challenge Cup, Washington Spirit still would have been okay, and they still probably would have made it to the postseason and the semifinals. And Rodman, a huge contributor of that, but there are also so many other lethal players for Washington Spirit. But Debina, she took North Carolina on her back and said, I'm going to make this team as best as it can be and really turn it around. And that's what we saw. I mean, both of these players, just a tremendous Challenge Cup. But yeah, we're giving the nod to Debina in this one for sure.
Let's expand things a little bit here for the Challenge Cup. We're putting together a Challenge Cup best starting 11. And we had a little bit more fun with this one, quite frankly, because you get more positions to look at. You get to, again, make more cases for folks and just to let people know and the inside workings of what we were doing in terms of the content planning. We wanted to make sure that when we were looking at a potential best 11 for the Challenge Cup, we wanted to look at players who had at least 5 matches under their belt within this 2022 Challenge Cup. And we were taking a look at different numbers and different stat lines throughout each one. And we're looking at a goalkeeper, 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 4 forwards in this one. So let's start with what we love best, which is defense. Lisa, let's take a look at the goalkeeper position. It was unanimous. Lisa and I had the least amount of discussion when it came to selecting a player in the best Challenge Cup starting 11 for the goalkeeper position. We are going with Fallon Tullis-Joyce. 7 games in net for OL Reign, 24 saves, 5 goals against, an 82.8 save percentage. We were just very impressed with this player. I mean, you can maybe even make a case for the Reign that this was their breakout player, which we'll get into a little later. But we had little discussion about her being in the goalkeeper position. Let's take a look at maybe some defenders. Lisa, you want to take those?
I love this. Yeah, I mean, Fallon Tullis-Joyce holding down between the sticks in goal for our best 11. And then across the back line, we have Carson Pickett out of North Carolina Courage, Abby Urseg also out of the Courage, Alana Cook out of OL Reign, and Sofia Huerta out of OL Reign. This one was also pretty easy for us to decide. It's interesting when we put the team tags on there, 2 from Courage and 2 from OL Reign. But defensively, these 2 teams just did so well with limited goals against throughout the Challenge Cup and the consistency in their play that they were able to do. And between Huerta and Pickett, their ability to also contribute in the attack and get down the flank and create chances for their teams with the versatility that they provide while also being really good lockdown 1v1 defenders. We had a little bit more discussion about the defensive side because we do love defense and there are so many good players to choose from, but these 4 definitely bubbled to the top pretty quickly. We're also going to give a little bit of off the bench subs coming in our best 11. So it's not quite a best 11. We're expanding it a little bit because we have to. We can't just pick 11 players out of all these 12 teams. So Megan Klingenberg out of Portland Thorns. This was a player that, despite playing 3 in the back and considerably that wing back position, defensively, Megan Klingenberg had a fantastic Challenge Cup for Portland. And then Alex Luera, the rookie for Kansas City Current. She started in the center back role. She moved higher up the pitch into a defensive 6 midfield role. But defensively, Luera was a really, really good player despite being a first year in the league, a rookie, and on a team that finished last in 2021. And ultimately, Kansas City ended up winning the Central region. So these 6 players overall, but mainly Pickett, Urseg, Cook, and Huerta, they were our defenders for this best 11.
I love it. I loved chatting about who we're going to slide into the back line there. And I'm happy with Pickett, Ursig, Kirk, and Huerta for that one. For the midfield, we, of course, are placing Debina. We told ourselves, listen, we can't give Debina the Challenge Cup MVP and not have her in the best 11. So we've got Debina, Ashley Sanchez, Denise O'Sullivan to round out the midfield here for the best 11 in the 2022 Challenge Cup. And we're looking at potentials coming off of the bench a little bit. We expanded that once more because, again, there were some really impressive midfielders during this Challenge Cup, and we kept a close eye on a player like Hina Sugita. We think that she really did some really good stuff for the Portland Thorns, really kind of slotting into what we have been referring to as a Lindsey Horan-sized hole. I mean, that is a massive player to try to slot in for, but we're starting to see during this Challenge Cup and now into the regular season what she is going to become for this Portland Thorns side. So we have her coming off of the bench as an option, but of course, players like Rose Lavelle and June Endo as well that we were equally impressed with during this Challenge Cup. And it's hard to read off these names and know that there are not going to be these type of players that are maybe going to be named to the best starting 11s in these.
I know, exactly. I mean, this midfield was really hard to do. And we did decide we were going to do a 4-3-3, which limits our midfield options. But Debina, Sanchez, and Denise O'Sullivan. Denise O'Sullivan, I was so impressed with her play throughout the Challenge Cup. She played every minute for North Carolina, and usually in the past, we've seen Denise O'Sullivan be such a attacking presence, and she had to take on much more of a defensive role because playing alongside Debina and Caroline up front, they could control a lot of the attack and they had a lot of freedom to roll, which made Denise O'Sullivan have to stay a little bit more compact and maybe not play as free as she would have liked to, but she fell into that role seamlessly. I was really impressed with O'Sullivan. But we get to talk about our forwards and our front line. This was hard, Sandra. We had a lot of discussion going back and forth about which front three we needed to have in our best 11. Ashley Hatch, she led the Challenge Cup in goals scored. Trinity Rodman, also in our front line. And out of Houston, Maria Sanchez, 3 assists, 1 goal for Houston. Houston only had 3 assists throughout the Challenge Cup, and Maria Sanchez knocked them all. She got all 3 of them, which is so incredibly impressive. Probably could have been a number of more with the chances that she created and sending crosses into the box. This front 3, I would love to see them play together. That probably won't ever happen, but this is a really fun 3 to watch between Hatch and Rodman out of Washington and then Sanchez. And then we had 3 honorable mentions, 3 forwards coming off the bench out of Kansas City, current Kristen Hamilton, Sophia Smith out of Portland Thorns, and Mallory Pugh out of Chicago Red Stars. Hamilton, a player that can just turn it on, score goals for Kansas City when they're looking down, really helped Kansas City win out that region. Sophia Smith had a great run in Portland, and Mallory Pugh, it's a shame she got injured towards the end of this Challenge Cup because that would have changed a lot of things for Chicago and for everything else. But Mallory Pugh, man, this player can play. We saw so many growth throughout the Challenge Cup games that she did play.
Yeah, it's so again, it's so wild to sort of think about how we wanted to set a little bit of criteria for ourselves, but not kind of restrict ourselves so much. So we thought, let's do like a 5-game minimum. Let's take a look at, overall the Challenge Cup. And it's tough when we're looking at some of these individual performances and slotting them in there. Like it's wild to me that a player like Smith and Pugh might not be on the radar for the best 11 because of how the remainder of the Challenge Cup might have went outside of the group stage.